I'm Jacqueline Gelineau, and I'm joined here today with Anna Warwick Sears, who's running for the Liberals in the Vernon-Lake Country-Monashee riding. Anna, so you've previously run for the NDP in the provincial election. What is it that made you want to run federally and with the Liberals?
I was not planning to run federally, but with Trump administration coming in and starting to do a lot of crazy things and starting to really look hungrily at Canada, I feel so strongly about Canadian sovereignty. I just felt like I had to do something, and this is something that I could do. And yeah, I just feel really passionately that we have to do everything that we can to protect Canadian independence. And I feel like Mark Carney is really the best and only hope that we have of really stopping what Donald Trump's trying to do.
Mm-hmm. So that's on a national scale. What about locally? What are some of the key issues facing constituents of your riding in Vernon-Lake Country-Monashee? What have you identified there?
Yeah, I think, you know, when we've done polling, people are concerned about these big national issues. Like, everyone feels very patriotic and concerned about sovereignty, and people are also concerned about Canadian security. But locally, it comes back to affordability, particularly affordable housing. You know, all the things that you need to do with infrastructure, things like we have up in Vernon, they need a new drinking water treatment plant, and that's a big cost to taxpayers. So that's the sort of thing that federal government can do and help with. You think about things that are in the federal sphere, it's not necessarily the so touched in on the local areas, but certainly Mark Carney is looking at different ways of providing relief to people, especially with the tariffs and effects on the economy, and how we're going to cushion the blow for workers and for small businesses that are being affected by the tariffs. So yeah, I think affordability has got to be the top local issue, and then all the different things that go into it. Like, so another related thing is medical care, and how we get more doctors, how we build out our hospitals, how do we maintain our quality of life.
You mentioned tariffs, and that's a key issue that's really felt by a lot of the farmers specifically in this region that, as journalists, we've heard. What would you do or advocate for to really support farmers who say that they're being hit by the impact of tariffs on both sides of the border when they import and export things? Yeah,
you know, it's tariffs and climate change, of course, locally. Climate change has really hit a lot of the local growers, so they're trying to replant their crops and make up for the lost business of the last few years. Just looking at this Wine Trails magazine that you have laid out here on the table, and one thing that I'm really excited about actually is how quickly the government's working on breaking down interprovincial trade barriers, because we have so much potential for increasing economic trade and stimulation and raising the GDP if we just can get our own products to our own markets, you know, within the country. And there's been all these crazy obstacles to us shipping BC wine or BC cider or BC spirits, BC beer, and because we produce so much of it to the other provinces. I mean, there's a lot of potential with that. Just there's a lot more that can be done marketing, support for local marketing of fruit. We still have a lot of fruit that's sold in our supermarkets that's coming in from the United States. Potentially, with these trade barriers that are coming in, maybe we can reduce the amount that's coming in from the U.S. to Canada and have better markets for our own produce.
Okay. You mentioned, healthcare. That is a really key issue around this area. We're constantly hearing emergency departments are being shut down, long wait times. What would the Liberal government do, here in the Okanagan area to ensure people are getting the healthcare that they need?
The Liberal Party, the federal government, always has to work in partnership with the provincial government. And so I think that they're really focusing together on doing things that reduce the barriers to bringing in new doctors. New doctors have to be recertified if they're coming in from other countries. I had a relative in a long-term care home, and one of the attendants in there, just one of the nurses' aides in there, was a doctor from the Ukraine who spoke English and was there just working as a care aide because he couldn't get recertified. So, or it was taking a while to do it. So this is a big part of it, is just working through all the problems with the nurses, the doctors, and the other medical professionals so that they can work here. Because someone once said we have the best educated taxi drivers in the world. And that's really a shame, isn't it? Isn't it? So that's a big part of increasing the medical care. Other thing is really cutting bureaucracy. I mean, it's sort of a fiscal conservative cliche that you have to cut bureaucracy, but I've heard from a lot of people at the doors that there actually is like some unnecessary levels of middle management in the health systems. This is primarily a provincial thing, but I know that the Carney government is also looking at reviewing systems just across the board to remove unnecessary obstacles. We get all this red tape. We don't like to get strung up by our own red tape, right? Need to find ways to cut it that make sense.
One thing that's been a really key talking point is the carbon tax, and climate change, as you mentioned, directly impacts people here in the Okanagan. We've had fires, we've had floods, we've had heat domes. What is the balance there, and what kind of balance do you see of cutting the carbon tax to make things cheaper for people with balancing the need for a robust and climate change strategy?
I don't have any, the carbon tax had its day and now it's done, and I think it was somewhat unfair really for people living in rural areas, and I think it's such a small part of the solution, right? There's so much more that needs to be done for climate change than just a small thing like that. I spent my career working on climate adaptation, like finding ways to protect communities from floods and droughts and other kinds of natural disasters, helping the planning departments and the city councilors figure out what kind of ways they can change the urban planning to better protect people. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done just on that disaster resilience and then disaster recovery, like the people who've been affected by forest fires recently, not just here, but over in the Monashee portion of the riding, but were really hit hard recently. So it's that helping communities recover from climate change is a big part of it. The other part, in terms of reducing the rate of climate change, I think we're seeing a really rapid move to electrification across, across the world. Solar panels are going way, way down in price. We're still going to need oil and gas for a considerable amount of time, but electricity is just going to boom. For one thing, the solar panels are getting so cheap. For another thing, we just have this huge demand. Like AI uses huge amounts of electricity. Our homes are being electrified. We're moving in a different direction. So I think that the changes are on their way, and that there's some really positive things that are happening around the world. And I know that Mark Carney takes that seriously. I know also that he has part of his Building Homes in Canada plan is also about retrofitting and making our existing homes require less energy by putting in more insulation and better windows and things like that. So there's a lot of plans that are already in place from the Liberal government, and I think I'm positive about the whole thing.
You mentioned, the cost of certain things are going to go down. Electricity with solar panels increased, green energy. People are still finding that the cost of living is really high.
Yes.
The cost of housing, the cost of
100%.
food. What would you do if elected to address that, or what would you be advocating for?
The Liberal government is bringing in a ton of programs right now to help with, it's like middle class tax cut. There's some relief for seniors having to do with not having to spend down their RIFs when the stock market is down. There's a bunch of small things like that. He's reducing the time that you have to wait to get EI if you've been laid off. There's a whole bunch of trades training grants that are coming out for people who are need to retrain to different jobs, and we're going to need those skilled tradespeople because we're going to build so many new houses. But there's no getting around. It's going to be, it's going to be stressful with all these forces coming in from Donald Trump. So he's very unpredictable. We don't know exactly what he's going to do. We can't just let him control our economy. So we're going to have to really work together and rely on each other a lot too.
You live in, and we live in one of the most beautiful areas in the world, I think. What is it about the Okanagan, and specifically your riding, that you love so much, that keeps you here? You've worked all over the world,
I'm here, I'm just in love with the lakes. I worked my whole career for the Okanagan Basin Water Board, and protecting the lakes, spending time out in nature around the lakes. I think there are many, many people here who feel the same as me, like these mountains, the lakes, the watershed, the nature, the lovely climate where it's dry and sunny, but we also have these beautiful waters around us. And the people are really amazing. I don't know, there's something that, there are places there where you just feel like you're at home. I grew up in the Kootenay Valley and in the West Kootenay, and there's something about BC and the lakes and rivers. But I especially love the contrast to the Okanagan, and the dryness and the heat in the summer, and then the beautiful water around us. Yeah, I don't know.
And I've been asked to inquire about one thing. So we do in our lakes. We have a mystical creature who may or may not be living there. Do you have any experience with the Ogopogo?
I've looked out sometimes of the lake, and you see there's this funny little waves that we get sometimes. I've aside from that, I have never seen the Ogopogo, other than the one that's down in downtown Kelowna by the sails. I've also talked to Okanagan Nation elders and knowledge holders about the spirit of the lake, and how, there's traditional knowledge about the spirit of the lake. So there's something in there that is part of our culture, definitely. Whether it's the spirit of the lake or the funny sculpture in downtown Kelowna, it's part of the culture of the Okanagan. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for answering that last question, and for being here today to speak with me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's always really fun to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.